Now we are live on YouTube, ma'am.
Okay, sir. So we are going to start now.
Yes,
We
ma'am.
can start.
Okay. So good afternoon to one and all. I, Khyati Nayak, on behalf of Prestige Institute of Management, Gwalior, Department of Law, would like to welcome you all to the expert webinar on the career avenues in the field of law. I would like to welcome today's speaker, Advocate Avnish Garg. I would also like to welcome our Director, Dr. S.S. Bhakar, and Head of the Law Department, Dr. Prabal Pratap Singh, and all the esteemed faculty members present here today. Welcome you all. So, proceeding further, I would like to call upon Assistant Professor Akash Gupta to give a brief introduction about Department of Law, Prestige Institute of Management, Gwalior.
Thank you, ma'am. Thanks a lot. Indeed, it's a matter of pride and honor to introduce the Department of Law, Prestige Institute of Management, Gwalior, before all of you. Department of Law, PIMG, came into existence in the year 2017. It is approved by Bar Council of India and affiliated to Jivaji University, Gwalior. Department of Law has autonomous status by UGC. We have 3 law courses along with all specialization provided by Bar Council of India. All faculties under the department are UGC NET qualified. Department has a well-equipped library and e-library with 6 computer labs. It's a fully Wi-Fi campus with an international level moot court hall. There are more than 100 journals in a hard copy. Recently, Bar Council of India praised the Department of Law for its well-managed attendance portal. Department of Law has its own club named Barrister League and dedicated moot court committee which works specifically for the moot court competition to sharpen up the skills of the students. Khyati ma'am, over to you. Hello, Khyati ma'am. Further, I would like to request Assistant Professor Shubhangi Gupta to kindly introduce our guest speaker.
Thank you so much, sir. Advocate Avnish Garg has been practicing and handling cases independently with a result-oriented approach, both professionally and ethically, and has acquired 17 years of professional experience in providing legal consultancy and advisory services. Sir provides services in various fields of civil laws, arbitration and conciliation, copyright patents and trademark, service and employment, property dispute, corporate law, and drafting and vetting of various agreements and documents. We welcome to the webinar, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Thank
So
you for the
thank you,
opportunity.
Shubhangi ma'am.
Yes.
Now I would like to call our head of the department, Dr. Prabal Pratap Singh, to address the gathering.
Good evening. Thank you, Khyati ma'am. Good evening, all. Today's webinar subject expert respected Advocate Avnish Garg, Supreme Court of India. Honorable Professor Dr. S.S. Bhakar, Director, Prestige Institute of Management, Gwalior. Law faculty colleagues, students and participants. I, Dr. Prabal Pratap Singh, Head of Department Law, Prestige Institute of Management, Gwalior, welcome all of you to this webinar. The Department of Law, Prestige Institute of Management, Gwalior makes constant effort to fulfill its responsibilities and social responsibilities in connection with this endeavor. This apprehension remains in the mind of the student of law while studying law and after studying. What to do after getting the law degree? To answer the same question, a webinar is being organized today on the topic career avenues in the field of law. Our expert will tell you in detail of this subject. You will all be benefited through this webinar with this hope that the Department of Law Prestige Institute of Management, Gwalior will continue to be supported by our today's guest. Wish you all happy learning. Thank you. Thank you very much. Over to Khyati ma'am.
Okay, so thank you so much, sir. Now I would like to call Dr. S.S. Bhakar, Director, Prestige Institute of Management, Gwalior, to address the gathering. Please, sir.
Respected Advocate Avnish Garg ji, Advocate Supreme Court and High Court of Delhi, Dr. Prabal Pratap Singh, HOD Law Department, Prestige Institute of Management, all the faculty members of Law Department. I welcome all of you in the webinar And I'm glad to be part of this webinar series of webinars that you have been organizing. It is a matter of pride that law department, which is as old as 3 years now, third year in fact running, has been able to organize a maximum number of webinars during this COVID-19 scare. And our students have benefited by the expertise of academicians and practitioners of law in all spheres of legal framework, including judiciary. They have been part of webinars, and that has benefited our students a lot. Now, today's topic, career opportunities in law or career opportunities for students, is a very opportune time. It is at a very opportune time. Majority of areas are seeing a serious slump in the in their business, and have been facing a lot of trouble. In fact, even the courts have not been functioning full steam, and only few important cases have been handled by courts. So naturally, the lawyers and the law firms, their income also is probably affected by this COVID-19, but the future seems to be extremely good. Post-COVID, whatever cases have been postponed because of COVID would all be scheduled immediately after that. So there will be a lot of business for everyone. Not only that, students have opportunity to go into judiciary, into advocacy, law firms, in organizations as legal officers, and so on. That means the whole canvas of activities or canvas of opportunities is available to students of law. Since we have an expert today who's going to talk on this, I'm not going to talk on each opportunity in detail. I'm sure he's going to do that. This is a that's the major reason why there is a serious attraction of students towards law programs, and specifically the integrated programs, integrated 5 years programs. All NLUs, you find there are a large number of students first preparing for CLAT, and then if they get admission in think that they've achieved everything in life. Maybe not. That's the starting beginning of learning. But then that's what the students feel, that okay, we've got an LLU, now nothing can stop us. And the reason why that happens is that there are so many opportunities for law students that they would not have any problem. They will get adjusted in depending upon their skills in one or the other field. So with that, I thank you, Kathy, and hand over to you.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much for your enlightening words. Now, I would like to request our speaker to begin with the seminar. Meanwhile, our chat box will be open. The participants can drop their questions in the chat box. Over to you, sir. So please continue with the session.
Thank you, Kathy, and thanks to your great institute, which has invited me to deliver this.
Welcome, sir.
Small note of information. Because why I'm calling it a small note of information, because the topic which is chosen today is, I think, the most burning thought in the minds of any law student.
Absolutely, sir.
Now, what happens, I just give a simile or metaphor, we should call it, that when we are in a school, we think as to what we are going to become when we grow old, or when we get into the the world of careers and opportunities, what we are going to become as a professional. Now, the beauty of the law is that when you are in law college, though you have chosen law as career, still that question remains in our mind as to what after law, which is not mostly the case with other fields. Like engineering, you know that you're going to become an engineer, maybe in some 3 or 4 fields or 5 fields. But you are set to become an engineer. You are going to be called an engineer for your life. And when you are into medical field, You are definitely going to be a doctor. But when you are pursuing law as your studies, you still don't know as to where you are going to land up in your career. Because law, as against any scientific science, is basically a human science. It's basically a social science. We definitely include law in our social science when we start studying about constitution, when we are in school or when we get into college. Constitution is one of the major subjects which we touch. Even if we are lawyer, we are not a lawyer, we touch the constitution one way or the other. So basically it's a social science. It's a science which is very much necessary for us to thrive as a society. So therefore, since society is so diversified, therefore the career options in law are also equally diversified. Now, to put it briefly, today's topic is chosen to avoid or to eradicate at least some part of confusion in the minds of law students as to what should we choose when we are into law and what should we do after we have completed our LLB. Now, to start with, I must say that whomsoever is pursuing law, he is definitely entitled to be congratulated first. Why this is so? Because you are in the most dynamic field of career. So dynamic, and perhaps the only field where sky is actually the limit. Why sky is the limit? Because, as you might be all knowing, that the highermost posts of our country are mostly held by lawyers. Be it parliamentarians, be it judiciary of course. But when it comes to parliamentarians, when it comes to our legislative, the government, the majority of the parliamentarians happen to be lawyers, starting from our own Rashtrapita Mahatma Gandhi till today. Even most of the cabinet ministers have been lawyers or successful lawyers in their own fields. Now, starting with that, when we know that there are so many options, this also leads to confusion in the minds of these students. What should we do? What is good for us? Now, being a social science, definitely the competition is also high. The difficulty is that because in India there are many much more things which has happened in past, and India is still a developing country. The career avenues are there, but so is the number of students who want to pursue career avenues. Now, we all want a stable career. And so earlier, the general yardstick was that somebody will become doctor, engineer, or somebody will go into government services. Law was also an option. But law, to my knowledge earlier, was only one of the options. Now, law has become a lifestyle. It is no more even a career. It has become a lifestyle. It improves your personality. It improves your perspective. So law is not only a career, it is also a way of living your life. Because when you become a lawyer, then you are always a lawyer. For 24 hours, into 365 days, for your entire life, you become a lawyer. Now, let us talk about as to what are the basic concepts on which we have to ponder, we have to think before choosing as to where do we have to go after law. I will talk about the options which are available after doing law, but what are those things which we have to understand about ourselves? Because what we choose mostly depends on how we are, what is our intrinsic nature, and what is our outlook for the society, what do we actually want to do? Because law is such a beautiful field that whatever option you want to choose, it is always available to you. Because you have to make yourself in law. Law is not where others will make you. You have to make yourself. You have to stand on your own legs, be it any field, wherever you will go. Because what you are going to do is, you are going to serve the society by way of your knowledge which you have gained. Law is all about knowledge. Law is everything about your personality. You have to develop a personality, you have to gather knowledge, and then you have to utilize this knowledge for the one you are serving, your clients as an advocate, maybe your students as a teacher, maybe the public at large as a judge, maybe as a law officer in a company, maybe when you join army as the lawyer for court martials, maybe the specified laws and maybe. So this is very diversified. Now let us start with Akash. Can you give me slide number 5 of the PPT?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Please.
Let us have an overview as to what options we have.
Is it visible, sir?
Just a minute. Yeah, it is now visible.
Yeah.
Now here is a small chart, but slightly descriptive as an algorithm, which gives us a brief view as to what all options we might get. Now, this is not exhaustive. Please bear this in mind. This is not exhaustive. This is only indicative. Since law is a dynamic field, we are a developing country. So every day we are finding there are certain new avenues of pursuing our career as a law student or as a law professional. Now, let us start with it. Then we will throw some light on as to what are these options. Let us have this slide, because now earlier there were only 3 years course. Now a BA LLB 5 years course is there, which saves you 1 year. Earlier, after graduation only, you could do LLB. Now you have an integrated course of BA LLB 5 years, which definitely saves you 1 year. Now both these courses leads you to become an advocate. The moment you pass LLB, you have to register yourself with the Bar Council if you intend to practice. So therefore, the first option, which is given over here, is All India Bar Examination, which is now mandatory for practicing. So you register with the concerned Bar Council. That Bar Council can be the Bar Council where you want to practice majorly or where you reside normally. But please bear this in mind that once you are registered with a particular Bar Council of a particular state, every state has one Bar Council, you are entitled to practice anywhere in India. You need not have any further registration. You can, I repeat, if you register yourself with any Bar Council, you are entitled to practice anywhere in India. That license is required by any Bar Council. Now, this All India Bar Examination is another must. After registering, certain Bar Councils, certain state Bar Councils are granting provisional certificates of practice. Certain Bar Councils have made it mandatory as a prerequisite to have cleared this AIBE, All India Bar Examination. So All India Bar Examination is compulsory. In the meanwhile, you may get, subject to the rules framed by your state Bar Council, a provisional certificate of practicing, which grants you an authority or license or permission to practice. So that All India Bar Examination leads you to become a complete advocate, ready to practice. For practicing law, no further degree after LLB is required. LLB is sufficient for practicing law. We will talk about LLM and the advantages of it. We will also talk about as to what after LLM, whether there are any degrees which are to be gathered for any particular field. We'll just touch that area also. Now, this we are talking about being an advocate and practicing as a freelancer advocate. Advocates are those. The meaning of an advocate is who represents somebody else, who advocates the cause of another person. So that is why the name advocate is given. So when you become an advocate, you are entitled to represent others. Otherwise, you are not entitled. In the courts of law, only advocates are authorized to represent somebody else as lawyers. Or that very person who is aggrieved or whose case is there, who is a party to the litigation, he can come. But no other person can come except then a lawyer. So we are authorized. So you become an advocate, then you practice. We will come back to this field of career, practicing as a freelancer or independent lawyer back, because this is one of the most chosen fields after law as a career. All right. Now, the second most popular option after law is judicial services. That is when we choose to sit in the competitive examinations. By this time, most of the law students must have at least some idea as to what challenges do they have in appearing for judicial services, what do they have to do. But let me just give you a bird's eye view of all this. For judicial services, after completing your law, you are entitled to appear in judicial services. There is no further requirement, no further degree to be gathered for appearing in judicial services. The maximum age limit for appearing in judicial services is 35 years for civil judge exam or for magistrate exam, that is the lower judiciary or civil judge examinations. There are higher judiciary services examinations also, after clearing which you directly become the district judge or additional district judge. But for that, you need to have a minimum of 7 years of experience as a lawyer. That is only for, please mark my words, that is only for when you want to get into the higher judiciary services. That is not for the entry judicial services, that is civil judge or magistrate. For that, there is no prerequisite of having any minimum number of years of experience. Earlier, I mean decades before, the requirement was to have at least 3 years of practice. Now it has been waived off. So that requirement is still not there. So after law, you can start preparing for judicial services. Now, talking about judicial services examination preparation, because I've received some questions also from the students as to what all we need to do to prepare for judicial services. How do we crack it? What is the guiding factor? Now, that I must tell you that every state has its own requirement of judicial officers or judges, because this is a state subject. As per the requirements, every 1 year or every 2 years, as the vacancies fall, they issue notifications for filling up these vacancies. The minimum eligibility criteria, as I told you, is having passed an LLB course and having not exceeded 35 years of age. And there are 3 examinations. One is prelims, where you will have multiple choice questions. Second is mains, and then you have to qualify a viva voce or interview. So these 3 simple steps, but as it sounds simple, it is not that simple, because you all know that there is a lot of cutthroat competition, and it is one of the most luxurious, I must say, avenues of law immediately after doing LLB. Because be it anything else, you will not get that much of reputation, that much of responsibility, because responsibility makes your life challenging. So, and definitely you will be a government servant, and that too as a judge. You will be deciding the stakes of various parties which are coming before you. So you will be next to God for them. So this is a matter of not only stability financially, financial stability or your career stability. This is also a matter of high responsibility. You will be discharging a role of deciding the fates of the parties who are going to appear before you. And please bear this in mind, even if you get a post of entry-level judicial officer, even then you will be deciding the fates, the luck, the destinies of many people who are coming before you. It does not matter whether you are a judge of a small municipal court, or you're a sub-judge in a small town, or you are a judge of the Honorable Supreme Court. It does not matter. What matters is that you will be imparting justice. You will be delivering justice. You will be sitting in that seat. And rather, in my opinion, even, I mean, please, with all due respect to all the higher courts and constitutional courts, including the Supreme Court of India, the first tier of our judicial services, the first tier is the entry level, where we file our petition first, where if I'm aggrieved, I'll go to a civil judge. He is the junior most in the hierarchy of judiciary, but he, in my opinion, is the most important person in the entire pyramid of judicial justice delivery system in our country. Why? Because he's the first person who is going to examine the stakes and claims of either party. So my friends, the waiver of 3 years of minimum practice criteria has given you this gift of being eligible of appearing for judicial services examinations. So therefore, with all such benefits and so much of challenges thrown by this opportunity of being a judicial officer, also comes the difficulty of the cutthroat competition, as I said. Therefore, for preparing judicial services, the basic subjects are only those subjects basically which you have already studied, mostly. There are certain other subjects, additional subjects which are there. Most of them also small subjects like Specific Relief Act, small subjects like Registration Act, Transfer of Property is a very vast subject, but small subjects like Local Acts, Rent Acts are there specifically for every state. Every state carves out this examination for as per their own requirements of laws. So these are also there. You have to study them. Now your preparation for judicial services start, in my opinion, from the very first year of your law college. I do not mean to say that you need to join a coaching or something specialized in judicial services examinations, but you need to be keen to know as to what you should have as a competitive edge to clear these examinations. These examinations, in my opinion, are not easier than IAS or UPSC examinations, other UPSC examinations. These are as tough. And what they are looking for is, I mean, you will not be a quasi-judicial authority. You will be fully a judicial authority. So much more responsibility. So they will be definitely assessing your overall personality apart from the knowledge. And personality is not an overnight change game. It's over the time you have to get. You have to gain and you have to get into the right shape of personality. So in my view, the preparation starts sooner the better, and maybe very first year of your law when you are into the law. So maybe even if you are not sure that you will go for judiciary, even then, you should start thinking about it. Because by the time you'll be graduating from your law college, you will get a fair idea as to where do you want to go. So for judicial services, start. Now, when I say start, please have complete focus what you are studying in your college as a law student. Each and every subject is important. Not only your marks are important, but the in-depth analysis of that subject is also important. To graduate from a college, maybe you're required to gather the minimum qualifying marks. But not only the marks, as I must say at the cost of repetition, you should also try to do the in-depth analysis. Try to find the logic behind any law, because law is nothing but only an over the period development of our logic. This is how the law has developed. This is a social logic science, right? How do we trade with each other? Starting from the era of where we started with barter system, when there was no currency or something. The law developed since that era. There were social laws. There was law related to life. How do we live? There are also personal laws, as we say. Now, when you are preparing for judicial services, as I told you, start as soon as possible. And you have to give an extra attention to your subjects, in-depth analysis. And you have to also be aware of the current affairs happening all over the globe, as well as mostly, particularly in our country also. Please start with that. I'll advise all the listeners that please do not give it a skip. General current affairs are also a must. So that is your basic start preparing for judicial services. Another question which is asked for the aspirants of judicial services: do we actually need a coaching or tuition for appearing into judicial services examinations, or we can do without that also? Can we self-study? Now, this question is very subjective, my dear friends. Why subjective? Because it all depends on you. Definitely, given the situation of competition, you might have an edge over the other competitors if you join a coaching class, but it does not give any assurance that you will crack it. You have to understand that what are the requirements which are being looked for by the examination conducting authority. You have to have a keen outlook for that. You have to have your homework done very well. And I know many students who have cracked these examinations without any coaching, without any assistance. And must I say that the question of taking assistance of a coaching comes only when you are in the final year of your degree, subject to your college rules, requirements, and after you have graduated. But you cannot skip your theory, the theoretical classes, the theoretical knowledge which is being imparted in a college if you really want to be successful, because that is ultimately going to be asked in various forms in the judiciary examinations. So the simple answer to the question whether we require a coaching or not is that it depends on you. If you are confident enough that we will be able to gather the requisite information about the examination in which we are aiming to appear, then you can do even without a coaching. But if you think you need assistance, and because the coachings also are charging quite a good sum of fees from the students, so you have to see what you have to balance it out. But it is not necessary. It is not compulsory. You can do without it and you can excel also. You can succeed. Now coming to the next option which is being shown is Public Services Commission examination. These are basically those examinations where the government appoints you as their legal officers, which also includes, as in MP we say ADPO. Basically public prosecutors or prosecution officers. Now, this is also a very reputed post. And the maximum age criteria in MP, I have just seen from the information available on the net, is 24 years. You can give this examination, you can attempt this only till the age of your 24 years, subject to verification. You may verify further from the available websites of the MP state government. But if the maximum age is 24 years, so the opportunity is open only till 24 years for you. But what are the pros and cons of becoming a public prosecutor? We must see to assess as to whether we really want to go for that. I can just give you a brief idea. Further, it is upon you to decide. If you become a public prosecutor or prosecution officer, the benefits are, in my opinion, these. You will get a very good exposure of the working of criminal judicial system of our country. You will be a very important part of this system. You will be assigned a particular court of magistrate and then a sessions judge, where you will be assisting the prosecution. Initially, you will be assisting the public prosecutor, and then you can become the public prosecutor yourself. This will give you a very deep insight and knowledge of criminal law and the practical knowledge as to how justice is delivered in the criminal courts of law of India. This is the highest benefit of becoming a public prosecutor. And if you become a public prosecutor by the age of 24, when this is just an inception of a career, then down the line, when you gather much more experience, you can yourself think as to where you will be in a very short span of a career. So that ways, if you are inclined, if you have a very good inclination towards criminal law, you can always try for it. It's a very good field. The another advantage which we get for preparing for ADPO is that you also cover many subjects for judiciary. You also prepare yourself for competitive examinations, because competition for ADPOs or public prosecutors is also very high, because it also offers stability, stable income. You don't have to struggle as independent lawyers to settle their practice, as well as reputation. Not as much as judicial officers, but still you will be granted a lot of recognition and reputation, because you will be assisting, you are an important part of the machine. The cons, there are certain benefits, there are certain disadvantages also. In my view, the disadvantages are that you will be stuck to a particular field of law. The law is a field where there are as many subjects as you can think of, because as I said initially, it's a social science. As many fields do we see as a layman sees every day. There are as many fields in law also, because everything is governed by law. Every act of human beings today in a civilized society is governed by law, subject to law. But here, if you join as a prosecutor, you will be confined only to one side of the law, that is criminal practice. So it might happen that after certain years of practice, you will continue only in that stream. You won't be able to explore the other fields of law. And therefore, this is what you have to decide. If you have a keen inclination, you can go for it. Then the next box which is given after Public Service Commission exam is competitive examinations. I think that is covered in this only. And there are certain examinations like law officers of banks. But to my knowledge, whenever banks are requiring law officers, they are also not looking for freshers, but they are also looking for experienced lawyers. So you can see as to what all are the requirements, because any engagement in these kind of services, be it law officer, be it public officer, be it a judicial service officer, will give you a lot of stability in your career. So you have to see as to what all are the requirements for bank law officers. You can see as to, so that is also one of the, a very good career option, because it provides you a lot of stability, as well as there is a lot of growth also. I have seen many persons who have joined as bank law officers and they have graduated to the level of general manager legal and sometimes even directors legal in banks, as well as other institutions. And banking is an industry. Please bear this in mind. Banking is an industry which is an everlasting and evergreen industry. Banks are the backbone of any economy, right? So this is everlasting. So if you are in bank, and now the packages, pay packages are also very good, very handsome in banks. So you can think about it very seriously. And sometimes the pay packages, I should not give a comparison, but sometimes the pay packages are higher than what we get in the government services, in private banks, and even in nationalized banks, now the pay packages are quite good. Now we come to the next option, which is given over there, is doing an LLM. Now, many times this is always a question asked by the students that do we actually need to go for LLM or we can escape it? Now, LLM is something which is not required for practicing law or being eligible for many courses or for many career options. But LLM is definitely required for imparting teaching, for imparting educational services. If you want to become a teacher or professor in any law college, LLM is a must. LLM is also a very good option if you want to enhance your specialization skills. Now, please consider this, as you also might be knowing, most of you, that LLB is the basic requirement of law. LLM is a specialization. Now, the good part of his earlier LLM used to be only of 2 years, minimum 2 years programs were there. Now LLMs are there with 1 year programs also. So you can complete in 1 year what used to be there for 2 years. So you can become postgraduate in law after doing a 1 year program of LLM. Therefore, it is not very much not unadvisable to do an LLM. The benefit which you get after doing an LLM is that you can choose an option of being a professor in any law college. And you can also be free to do a PhD after LLM in any particular specialized field. For PhD, LLM is a must. If you have LLM degree under your name, it definitely carries a lot of weight. But before thinking about LLM as an option, please also check, because the problem which has been recently faced is that 1 year LLM programs are not considered as sufficient eligibility by many colleges, universities who are asking for professors. In many advertisements, it has been seen that the colleges are now asking for a 2 years LLM program. So you have to first check as to what is the feasibility of doing 1 year LLM course, and then you can go for 2 year or 1 year LLM course as per your study. So this is the benefits of doing LLM. The difficulties, the disadvantages of doing LLM is that if you want to become an independent practitioner, then you will have to wait for 1 or 2 more years. The other point of view is that instead of doing an LLM, you can straight away start your practice if you want to become an independent lawyer or to practice as a lawyer, advocate in the courts of law. Then LLM is not a requirement. So you will be saved from investing your further 1 or 2 years in doing LLM. And then what you can do is you can utilize this time in gathering practical knowledge. As you all know, that for becoming an advocate, practical knowledge is a must. Though colleges try their level best to impart this practical knowledge to their students by way of various moot courts and internships, still, unless we take the plunge in the sea, we will not be able to learn as to how to swim. So sooner the better. Sooner the plunge we take, the better it is, because we will get to know as to how to practice and how to cater to clients. Because once you start your independent practice, it's an altogether different ballgame. I'll talk about that further in detail in the later course. So that is the disadvantage I feel for doing LLM. Now there are questions which are asked by the students that whether LLM, if you want to pursue LLM, whether LLM from an Indian university is better, or what are the advantages of doing LLM from an overseas university. Now, friends, this also depends on various factors. I must say, before beginning to tell you as to what are the advantages or disadvantages of doing an LLM from overseas, that ultimately you are going to gather a degree of LLM. If you have in mind that I want to settle abroad and practice over there, then you can seriously think about doing an LLM from overseas. Because definitely that will give you not only a degree from that particular university, and you will get a chance to be there for some time and see, but that will also give you a lot of exposure. Because when we do an LLM or when we do any course from any overseas university, what we first get is a lot of interaction with different cultures, a lot of interaction with various persons who are gathering. Because when LLM programs overseas are designed by various universities, various special universities, to cater to the global needs of serving the legal requirements, and mostly commercial. So if you want to do an LLM from overseas, you can do it, but it is a very expensive task. It requires a lot of tuition fees, plus the fees for staying over there with expenses and charges. The difficulty is, another difficulty is, does not guarantee that you will get a job over there. Because every country has its own rules and regulations. Most of the countries grant only a limited period visa of, let us say, 4 months or 6 months after you have completed your course of LLM from there. Within that span of 4 or 6 months, you have to find a job, you have to find a placement. If you are able to find, well and good. If you are not able to find, you have to come back. So while doing an LLM, you have to also see as to what are your future plans. And then you can decide whether to go for an LLM from abroad or India. Indian LLM also has a lot of weightage. For example, Delhi University offers LLM of 2 years. There is no 1 year program. Certain national law universities offer 1 year law LLM programs. You should see as to whether that's a very good option, but slightly higher competition in getting entrance to that. So this is what my answer is. In a nutshell, if you want to practice independently, you can skip LLM. But if you want to keep your options open, then you can you should do LLM, because later, even if you are practicing, later if you want to switch over, you can switch over on the basis of LLM. Now, then comes if you see the slide, there are certain courses which are mentioned in the slide. But before mentioning them, I must say that till now we have talked about three main wings of careers after law. We have talked about judiciary, we have talked about independent lawyer, we have talked about public prosecutors. But I must tell this to you, as I told you initially, that India is a developing country. Now, what we are seeing is, what we are witnessing rather is, that there are specializations in every field occurring. And those specializations are, in banking, there is a specialization of laws. In insurance, there is a specialization of law. In aviation, there is a specialization, because that industry is getting bigger and bigger day by day. There are industries like construction, which are getting a different shape altogether, and many more. This is only the tip of the iceberg. So these industries require specialized in-house counsels. Not only in-house specialized counsels, these industries also require specialized attorneys, lawyers, to cater to their specialized needs. To cater to these specialized needs, there are various special programs offered by various reputed universities and colleges. That is also that also frames a factor of good options to pursue. Because if we pursue in a specialized field, definitely there is a con of getting stuck into that field only and not being able to practice in other fields. But there is also an advantage of being an expert in that field. And when you are expert in that field, when you have gathered that much of knowledge, then there is no stopping. Then you become much more important than for your organization for which you are working as a special advisor. So these specializations include insurance laws, banking laws, just examples, and construction industry, real estate laws, in other words, and so on. So you can think about that also. Now, there is a very new emerging field, which is of legal correspondent. Now, what is a legal correspondent? If I want to be a journalist, then I have a very good option of pursuing my career in law. Because legal journalism is a different ballgame altogether. Why is it so? Because as compared to general journalism, the normal journalism, normal reporting, legal journalism is not that easy. Before publishing any news or before editing any news article, you need to have a good knowledge of that particular article or the subject which you are going to write. And that is why this field of legal journalism has taken a very good shape over the years. Over the past few decades, it has become one of the major sought for, because if you are into legal journalism, you get exposure to all the tiers of justice delivery system of our country. You get to report the major incidents. You have to be the first to report. It's a very challenging job. I think much more challenging even than practicing an independent advocate. So legal correspondence, being a legal correspondent also is one of the major fields which are shaping it nowadays. Now, secondly, there is also one of new fields which are coming up, and that is of legal researchers. By legal researcher, we mean those who study the various judgments delivered by various courts of law, not only Indian, but global courts, the overseas courts also, US, UK mainly, which are quite used in our Indian judicial system also as a precedent of those areas which are gray in India. So legal researchers is also another wing, which is getting bigger and bigger, a subset of careers of law. For being a legal researcher, you need not have any particular skill set. Your law degree is sufficient, but what you can do is you can take special courses which are meant to enhance your reading skills, enhance your understanding skills, and most importantly, enhance your skills of summarizing a particular piece of article or a judgment. That is basically being a legal researcher. And being a legal researcher, you will become a very important asset for various legal journals. And you can also become a law researcher for various courts, because courts also require these kind of researchers. Plus, it will also help in future if you want to become an independent lawyer, because your reading skills are going to get you to become a very successful lawyer. Lawyers, because independent lawyers are always have to have a very good reading and analyzing skills, analytical skills. So that is also one of the field, legal researcher. Now, another field which is quite coming up nowadays is to serve the humanity, being a lawyer. That is also one of the big fields. And I have come to know that most of the law colleges are asking their students to have their first internships and at least 1 or 2 internships with an NGO. Now, NGOs are becoming more and more popular in the field of balancing the social equation in our country. And therefore, it also has a very, very, very bright career. And if you have a knack of being a philanthropist, if you want to do something for a nation, nothing stops you for, after you become humanology or you want to pursue with an NGO as a lawyer. Now, also, if you see at the last option in this slide on the left-hand side, there is one more career option you have is to work with an LPO. Now, what is an LPO? LPO is legal process outsourcing. Legal process outsourcing, as you can see, the word suggests is when there is a requirement by any company, it may be an Indian company, it may be an overseas company, but if they want to process certain applications, or they want to process certain claims, or they want to do an assessment of any application or representation made to them as per the prevalent laws applicable to that organization, they may outsource it to you. And when it is outsourced to you, what your job will be to study that particular laws of that country, of that region, or of that particular industry from where that outsourcing has been given to you. For example, it might be a US-based insurance company which wants to have their insurance claims by the insured persons processed by you, because it is expensive over there to get this much of manpower. So they may outsource it. And this business is also thriving since last many years at least. So they may outsource it to some Indian LPO where you might be working, and then you will make an assessment of the claim which is made, and then you will give a verdict whether it is allowable or it is not allowable as per the study of those laws. Now, being a part of an LPO, I must say, will give you a lot of financial stability in terms of a career, and it is very easy to get these kind of jobs, I must say. Even after doing your law, these are one of the most offered positions to law students I have been witnessing from the law colleges with which I have interfaced. But the disadvantage of being a part of LPO as a career is that your career is much more stagnant, unfortunately, because you are not pursuing any particular field, but you are doing work for somebody else, that too not gaining any major part of that. It is most, which I find, in my personal opinion, is more on the clerical side, because you get to know some particular law and then you are working only in that field, that too only in that subfield for a major part of time. So it grants you financial stability, but then growth is slightly hampered over there. But the good part is with our law degree is that at any time, whenever you find that you are now financially stable, you can leave that field and hop on to other field. That option is always there. If you want to learn and if you want to start from scratch, then you can always hop on to other field, and subject to your capabilities, sometimes it does not take much time to gain a good hand in that new field also, new option also, which you have entered into. Now, coming back to the questions which are there in the mind of the students, which I have got. There are certain...
So,
yes.
We will be moderating the questions. We will be conveying you the questions. So can we start if you're done with your seminar?
Yeah, you can start because depending on the questions also, I will be imparting some knowledge to the students. You can modulate the students like.
Okay, sir. So thank you so much. So some of the common questions that were raised by the participants in the registration form.
Yeah.
So I will be asking those questions. So
Yes.
basically, you have already answered a lot of them, but it will be very kind of you if you will address them specifically for better understanding of students. Okay, sir. So the question is, the first question is how to get started as an independent professional for a first generation lawyer without influential background, and how to build a better clientele during the initial years of litigation. What is the better approach to get it started, basically?
Kathy, I must say you have asked the most delicate question of this webinar.
Yes, sir.
And to start with, I must tell this to you that I am also a first generation lawyer. And
Yes,
I will not say whether influential background or not, but I'll just say a first generation lawyer. Now, let us understand this term for 1 minute as to what is a first generation lawyer and why are we concerned about it. I must tell this to you that be it first generation or the second generation or the third generation, does not matter. Because first generation has its own challenges, definitely. The second or the, whichever generation, nth generation also has its own challenges. The first generation has to set up from beginning, start from scratch. It does not have any name. It does not have any lineage, of course. But the second generation lawyer also has to meet up the expectations which have been built up the earlier generation of that lawyer. So it is always challenging. And as you must have seen, our profession is not different from films. It is just like films. So if we have, I will not take names, but if we have a son of a very mega star, he may be given one chance, but he will not get many chances after that if he does not fare well in his first chance. Similar is here. Now, let us confine ourselves to first generation. The challenges are there. You have to set up your own name. You have to set up your infrastructure also. How to get a good clientele, because clients are the very basis on which an independent lawyer survives. But all these questions are basically very subjective. It all depends on the person to person as to how he modulates himself, how he prepares himself for meeting, these challenges in his independent practice. But I can definitely give you certain tips. And the first tip is that you have to understand what is success. Success is the intersection of two lines. One is you are having prepared fully, you're being prepared fully. And the other is opportunity. Now, if the opportunity comes your way, you should be prepared fully. Now, if you are prepared fully as an independent lawyer, and a client comes your way, who is your first client, and if you are able to cater to that client in a very satisfactory manner, then there is no stopping for an independent practice. Please bear this in mind. When you are going into independent practice, please mark my words, you have to be very, very, very patient. The competition is huge, but you have to be prepared for all the times. You have to groom your personality. You have to be ready with your knowledge. And whenever there is knowledge, sooner or later, it will be shown. It will be seen to the prospective clients. Don't worry about that. But don't be bothered about this patient thing or the time which it takes. Now, if you are able to cater to your clients in an effective manner, don't worry about the infrastructure also. You just focus on as to what is required for advocating his case, how to make him successful in the matter. And trust me, even if your client is not successful, God forbid, in your first matter, if he sees that you have worked hard, he will spread these words to 10 or 50 or 100 more persons who will be your future clients. Because as we all know, advocates act from advertising ourselves. So we only succeed on the basis of word of mouth. And word of mouth about our good work is spread only by our clients. So if you want to become an independent practitioner, be prepared with your knowledge. Infrastructure is not that. And then go to courts regularly. Yeah.
Okay, sir.
Go to courts regularly, be a part of the system, and sooner or later, you will have your own clientele. Don't worry about the first clientele. When you become an independent advocate, sooner or later, the people who know you will come to know that you are practicing as a lawyer, you are going to the court every day, you are going to the court regularly, and everything will fall in place. Don't worry. Yeah.
Okay, so thank you, sir. So now basically there are two different questions from two different participants, but I think if I'll merge them, it will be better. So now the question is, like you have already covered all these points, but the question here is how to choose a specialization, especially when your goal is to crack judiciary exam, and how should we prepare for judiciary and ADPO effectively?
So basically, the first question is how to choose a specialization when you want to go for judiciary.
Yes, sir.
Or ADPO.
Yes, sir.
See, for judiciary and ADPO, there is no particular specializations required in my knowledge. Right after a law, you become eligible for appearing in any of these two examinations. So there is no particular specialization which you require. But definitely, as the name says, ADPO, since it deals with criminal courts, you should have a keen knack of criminal law. And for ADPO, I can say that whenever you are when you are pursuing your LLB, please be more keen for your criminal subjects, the subjects which deal with criminal matters. So that is the answer for your ADPO thing. And for judiciary, definitely you have to be if not master, you have to be jack of all the trades.
Yes.
And what they are going to assess is your personality also, not only your knowledge. Because tomorrow you are going to sit on the chair of a judicial officer, controlling many things altogether, doing multitasking. So please enhance your personality also. That I will say is a specialization which you should focus on as a subject, apart from all the general subjects. So for these two, I don't think there is any specialization required. But still, if you want to do LM or something, you can go for any humanity laws. If you want to go for judiciary after completing your LM, because humanitarian laws are always given precedence to my knowledge, but it is not hard and fast yardstick. Yeah, okay.
Okay, sir. So the next question is how to draft effective CVs and emails while applying for internships or like jobs later on.
See, it's not a matter of clever drafting, but definitely you have to draft your CVs and emails in the most crisp manner. They should not be complicated. Drafting a CV or email or drafting anything does not mean that we try to fill it up with as many words as possible. It's all about being crisp, because the person who is going to read them, he should read the highlighted areas, because he is keen to see your achievements, how you fare better than the others. So you should be able to give this idea about yourself to that person in maybe in half a minute, or maybe in the very first glance of your CV. That's how you should draft your CV. Right? Don't fill up with many words, because more the words, lesser the interest of that person to read your CV. Similar is with emails. I have seen students writing internship applications saying that full of one page or something, that I've done this and that. Sometimes when the lawyers or law firms have time, they do go through that. But sometimes they don't have that much of time, because the applications are quite in number. So therefore, I'll try to say that please highlight your achievements, and don't get into much of a verbal filling up the CVs and emails. Yeah.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much, sir. So moving forward to the next question.
Yeah.
So what are the scopes after completing LLM, and how useful it is, or we can say what difference does it make when you do it from abroad? And also, is LLM also important for judiciary as well?
LLM is not important for judiciary, as I have already said. It is not a must. It is not an eligibility criteria. But if somebody has done a master's degree in any subject, definitely he will get some more weightage. It goes without saying. So my advice to the students will be, if you ask me whether I will like to go for an LLM, is that if given a chance, I'll definitely like to complete 1 year LLM before pursuing further, because that will definitely add on to my qualifications. If you ask me personally, though it depends on person to person, it is not a must. I still must. But there is no difficulty. There is no harm in adding one more qualification to your CV. It always, shines in your CV,
Yes,
LLM. And if it is for 1 year, you should go for it. That's what I believe. But if you want to start right now, if you think that you are confident enough to circumvent that requirement of having an additional qualification in your CV, if you can circumvent that with your knowledge and personality, then there is no requirement. So it depends on your personal perspective and priority. And then the next question, I think I have already given some hint about it as to what are the advantages of doing LLM and what are the advantages of doing it from abroad.
Yes, sir.
So I've already told you what are the advantages and disadvantages of doing LLM. LLM is always an additional degree in your CV. It also gives you a specialization, and you can pursue PhD, and then you can, if you are an independent practitioner and sometimes you feel that I'm very good in teaching this law as a subject, you can always switch over to some other career option in the law. That option is always open. So LLM gives you that advantage of having that option open. Sometimes what happens that when I'm in practice, I find after some times that this is not my cup of tea. So then there's always an option open that I can switch over to teaching profession in law. Then comes whether it is advantageous to do LLM from abroad. That also depends on your pocket a lot. I will not say that you should do it after taking a huge loan if your pocket does not permit. But I must say that if you have plans to settle abroad, or if you want to, have a good exposure of global, cultures, then you should do it if it permits you. Definitely, we should always try to think out of the box, and it's always. But it does not carry much more of an advantage if we think about settling abroad also, because there are many rules, regulations, and restrictions also. So it's not that easy that just we do an LLM from abroad and we are able to settle over that. So it's very difficult even after doing LLM from abroad. But it definitely, if your pocket permits, I must say at the cost of a tuition, you can do it still. It will carry a lot of weight if you have done it with a reputed university, from a reputed university. You have to be very vigilant about choosing a university from if you're doing it abroad. Not every university in abroad is that much reputed. Yeah.
Okay, sir. So thank you so much. And now I would like to call upon Assistant Professor Akash Gupta to please convey the question mentioned in the chat box to our speaker.
Yeah, thank you, ma'am. Sir, actually, lots of students are asking questions on YouTube too. So one of the familiar questions they have asked on YouTube is, kindly elaborate on opportunities for law graduates in Indian Army.
In
Indian Army.
Indian Army.
Yeah.
See, basically, Indian Army opens various posts, and that has to be any specialized post. They invite applications. But I think it's an altogether different chapter, Akash. I must say that I've also gone through a lot of information over the net. So what I'll advise the students is, because it is a very reputed career option, joining Indian Army. There are various army laws, because what happens, why
Yes,
do
sir.
yes.
Hello.
Yes. Am I audible?
Am I audible?
Yes, sir, you continue.
Yeah.
Why Army requires specialized officers is because the court martials which happen in Army are a very confidential, is a very confidential procedure. So that is why they always require in-house counsels who are not less than advocates, but they specialize only in Army. Now, to qualify as an Army advocate, you have to see as to what are the requirements. Definitely, law is a requirement. And then specialization in certain fields is also requirement. They also see freshers can join, but only in a very restricted number of posts freshers can join. What I have seen from the internet is that they are also asking for certain experience as an independent lawyer before you join. So it depends on the student as to in what category he wants to apply, and then he can see. And if there is a specific student who he can connect with me later on also, I will guide. Yes.
Thank you, sir. The next question asked by a student named Tarun Pratap. He is pursuing BBA LLB honors, and he is asking ki, I am preparing for UPSC examination. What should be the strategy to crack the examination of UPSC while a student is doing or pursuing BBLLB honors?
See, it's always an advantage for a law student to do UPSC. If you see my slide also, I think I mentioned this thing that what are the advantages, because even in UPSC, if you just come to slide number.
Should I share the screen, sir?
Yeah, you can share.
Yeah.
You can see the slide number 4.
Slide number 4. Okay, sir.
Yeah.
Civil services examination, I guess.
Yes, yes. Yeah, this one. If you see this slide, I have already covered, because in prelims paper, this GS paper, General Studies paper 1, there is always emphasis on administrative law and constitutional law. There are 2 sections. Section A, law of crimes and law of torts, while in section B, law of contract, mercantile law, and contemporary legal developments are asked. So these topics are already covered in BA LLB. It definitely gives you a leading edge over the other aspirants of UPSC. And basically, even in mains, good amount of questions are based on Indian polity and constitution, as you might see in this slide. So I think, and not basically the other requirements of the judicial services entrance examination remain the same. You already have an edge. If you are preparing for UPSC, you already have an edge. So just focus on these subjects a little more, and I think you will be able to gather it. Yeah.
Sir, next question asked by Mr. Arun Kumar. He's asking, sir,
Yes.
is there any specific preference given to BCom LLB or BBA LLB students over LLB students in corporate sector?
There is no such preference given. If you are having taxation as your background, then some corporates say that, okay, you will be handy for our taxation queries. But if you have done law with all devotion, and if you are good in the subjects which you have studied in law, because law always gives a roundup of all these subjects also. And while pursuing law, taxation also comes as a subject. So if you study law, and while studying law, you give a good amount of focus on your taxation subject and other subjects which are the corporate subjects, we say, like Companies Act, labor laws, taxation, then definitely based on your knowledge, anybody would like to take you. There is no, because it's all about knowledge. Why they are looking for BCom LLB is that they have a preconceived notion that BCom is always well versed in taxation part or management or marketing part. But this can be done while pursuing law also. You just have to convince. But there is no major advantage which they get. Yeah.
So the next question asked by Ritvik, he's asking, sir, what about changing states before and after lower judiciary examination?
What are the?
What about changing states? He's asking. I think he's asking he somewhere is going to appear from MP, and he cleared the judicial examination of Uttar Pradesh. Then what will be the position, or what will be the effect of changing states?
This is a very subjective question he's saying, but definitely if you are a judicial services aspirant, you should take as many chances as possible. But if you have a preference of a particular state, my home state or that particular state, then it depends on your choice. But if you are going into competition, then it's all about giving as many attempts as possible. That will I say. It is a very subjective question.
Yes, sir. On behalf of all other students, though they haven't asked other questions on chat box, although I would ask a simple question on behalf of other students. What should be the criteria to start preparing for judiciary, and what should be the subjects to look upon? What should be the major subjects, I guess, we should focus upon in for cracking judicial examination of any state?
See, judicial examinations are all about certain major subjects, as you rightly said. And those major subjects are not unknown. Those major subjects are CPC, contractual law, CRPC, IPC. IPC is a very, very, very must. IPC and CRPC are and CPC, these basic broad. And then comes the Transfer of Property Act. These are the basic central acts which are always germane to prepare for any judicial examination. Plus, a very in-depth knowledge of our Constitution of India. That is the must.
Yeah.
Not only knowledge, but an in-depth knowledge. All about its history also, as to what are the major judgments related to our Constitution. They have also become they also form a very important part of judicial preparation. Then there are small acts like Registration Act, like Rent Control Acts, Specific Relief Act. These are small acts which are also very important. But the major subjects remain CPC, CRPC, IPC, Constitution, Contract, Transfer of Property Act. These are the major subjects. And I must advise your students that whenever you are going for judicial preparation, you have to do a thorough homework before that. Without that, my answering it in 1 minute or 2 minutes will not suffice. We are just having an overview as to what you should choose, what you should not choose, just to germinate a thought in your minds. This is not an exhaustive webinar because it may take hours and hours to discuss about one's own perspective of choosing a career option in law. So you have to do a thorough homework, and all these subjects you have to focus on, and then you have to see as to how to go about it. State-wise, it differs. And general knowledge, as I said, is also a very, very must. You should be, taking it, making it your daily habit to be well versed with as to what's happening around you and how we evolved also. Even that comes in the judicial exams. Yeah.
Yeah, you have rightly said, sir, because I always feel that if examination is an art, one must be an artist.
Yeah, you have to.
So, due
lawyers
to the
are always artists. Lawyers are like, be it any field, you will remain an artist. That's the beauty of this field.
Yes, sir. Due to lack of time or the shortage of time, we are unable to take any more questions, and we would email you all the questions. And
I'll try to answer as many possible.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, sir. And actually, students are asking for your PPT, sir. If you rightly think so, then we can share with the students.
Yes, of course. Of course.
Thanks a lot, sir.
Knowledge from being imparted.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much. Over to you, Kathy, ma'am.
Okay, sir. So thanks for answering all the questions so precisely. So moving ahead, I would like to call upon Assistant Professor Hariom Awasthi to deliver the vote of thanks to our speaker. Please, sir.
Thank you, Khyati ma'am. Feeling gratitude and not expressing it is like wrapping a present and not giving it. On this note, I consider it as a great pleasure to propose a vote of thanks to all the dignitaries and participants who have witnessed this event as a remarkable and intellectually enlightening one. I would like to thank our esteemed guest for the webinar, Advocate Avnish Garg, Advocate Supreme Court and High Court of Delhi, for sparing his valuable time to enlightening our participants on such crucial topic that the career avenues in the field of law. Thank you so much, sir. I hope many queries have been resolved by now. We are deeply honored. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Now, I would like to convey my deepest regards to our Honorable Director, Prestige Institute of Management, Gwalior, Dr. S.S. Bakar, sir, for his continuous support and encouragement for making this webinar a success. Thank you so much. I would like to thank our head of the department, Dr. Prabal Pratap Singh, sir, for his immense support and guidance for the successful condition of this webinar. Thank you so much. I would like to thank the coordinator of this webinar, Ms. Khyati Nayak, for smooth functioning and steering the session for broader benefit of all the participants and viewers of this webinar. Thank you so much, ma'am. I would like to thank the faculties of the Department of Law for their untiring efforts for the successful conduction of the webinar. Thank you all. Thank you so very much. I would like to thank again everyone for joining the session and listening to our profound speaker. I hope you all have been benefited of such enlightening session. Have a great day. Jai Hind.
Thanks. All the best to you all.
Thank you so much, sir. And a very special thank you, Advocate Avnish Garg, once again, sir. Thanks for being here today, and thanks for all the participants for making this event successful today. And now I would like to share with you all the details of the upcoming webinars of Prestige Institute of Management, Gwalior. So We are pleased to inform you that Prestige Institute of Management Gwalior is going to organize its 12th International Conference on the theme Digitalization as a Vehicle for Innovation, Organizational Growth and Effectiveness in association with AI DPM Indonesia from 19th to 21st December 2020. So participate in the conference and get a chance to publish your papers in Scopus and WS listed journals. And also the Department of Law is going to organize a webinar on 13th July on the topic, the unprecedented changes to India's labor law during COVID-19. So we are looking forward to your active participation in all the upcoming events organized by the Prestige Institute of Management Gwalior. And details of all these events shall be shared with you on your registered email ID, and the PPT of this event and your questions will be mailed to sir. And if you will be able to answer the questions, they will be mailed to you very soon. So thank you all of you. We can end our today's webinar now. So,
Thank you so much. Yes, sir. Prabal, sir, can we end the session? Okay.
Okay, I take your leave, guys, and all the best to all of you.
Thanks a lot, sir.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, sir.
Okay, sir. Bye, sir.
Kathy ma'am, I'm ending the session now.
Yes, sir, we can end the session. Yes, sir.
Sir, Akash sir,